longer with me. I kind of lost the mom voice at a wedding earlier this week. But clap your hands if you're parents. Oh, good, some parents here. So I didn't start out thinking I was gonna have it all and be one of these, working moms, because that's a dream that is not true. But I started out having a job and a career, and then I got married, and then I had kids, and it's a lot of work, a lot of work. Laundry, for example, it's not a linear equation where you have one extra load of laundry per child. It's exponential. So I had to go back to the office to relax, to have adult conversations, to make sure I showered a couple of times a week. Now, my mother didn't really understand this decision I made. She was from another generation. So she said, I bet you could save a lot of money by staying home full time, because you wouldn't have to spend money on all those business suits. You could just sit around all day in sweatpants. Oh, that was so inspiring. Who knew 25 years later we'd all be sitting around in sweatpants all day and working? Well, a few years later, we had a couple of kids, and I actually got a great opportunity with a few levels up. It required relocation to Boston. Now, I told my husband, and the first thing he said was, Boston? They don't know how to drive. I hate the sports teams. We are not moving to Boston. Then he called all his male friends, and he said, if your wife got a job somewhere else, would you follow her? Do I lose any masculinity if I follow my wife somewhere else? Turned out it was actually more opportunity for him than for me. So we decided to take this opportunity. Then we had to tell our parents. So I called my mother. I was like, Mom, I got this great new job. We're moving to Boston. She said, first thing she said, are you and your husband separating? I guess temporarily, until I get settled. Then we tell my in-laws, and my mother-in-law's like, Boston? Now the kids are going to talk like that. So we ended up moving to Boston. We lived there for 8-9 years. It was a lot of fun, had another child, became Red Sox fans, and I got a great opportunity, another one, in global marketing in the Chicago area. And one thing we learned, I'm actually Jewish, we're Jewish, and we learned that when you don't have any friends or family in a new city, to find a town that has a high Jewish population. And that way, you meet in the community and you can make new family, surrogate family, some of whom are here tonight, through the community. So that's what we did, and we got a house, and the kids started school, and only then did we realize how affluent this community was. The stay-at-home parents had stay-at-home parents. They still had nannies and au pairs, which is not a French pastry, by the way. It's kind of like Alice was to Mrs. Brady on the Brady Bunch. So it came time for my youngest son to start Hebrew school on Wednesday afternoons, and we had to figure out how to get him there. I'm like, well, you're gonna have to walk. It's a few blocks away. Your parents are at work. My daughter walked, and you know how to get there. So remember, it's your first day of Hebrew school. You gotta walk to Hebrew school. So I went to go pick him up at 6 o'clock, and the director said, oh, he didn't show up today. I was like, what do you mean he didn't show up today? Why didn't you call me? He said, oh, we only call the parents when they've been missing more than 2 days. I was like, what is this, the missing persons at the police? You gotta wait 24 hours? So I go tearing home, and thankfully that's where he was, a popsicle stick on the floor, his hand in a box of crackers, watching Nickelodeon, which typically is not allowed in our house. I thought this is the equivalent of a grown man sitting on a couch in his underwear, drinking a beer, watching the game. I was like, why didn't you go to Hebrew school? He said, I decided I'd had enough school for today. It's like, well, this is not going to work. So I called the director. I was like, how do I get him to Hebrew school? He was like, well, here's all the names of all the parents who's had kids in school and in Hebrew school. I called all the moms. Nobody even called me back. One of the moms actually answered the phone. So I talked to her, and it turns out that all the carpools were figured out in utero. Well, we moved here when my kid was in first grade, so that wasn't going to work. I was like, look, I just need to get my kid there at 4 o'clock on Wednesday. I can pick your kids up at 6, whatever else you need. She goes, why? Do you, work? I thought she was throwing up into the phone. So that wasn't going to work. Thankfully, my brilliant husband figured out a way to get him there on the school bus, and that was resolved. I started doing a lot of global traveling. I was somewhere in, Vietnam or Philippines when my daughter got her first period. I felt bad that I wasn't here to help. My poor husband didn't know what to do. I found out years later that he actually took her down the Depends aisle in CVS because he didn't know what to do. My daughter took him down the right aisle and figured that out, so actually I'd had the talk with her, but apparently I needed to have the talk with him. In the end, whether you're working in business suits or you're working in sweatpants, we're all as parents just trying to do the best we can with what we got, like my dad always said. And if that's not enough, there's always therapy. That's my time. Thank you all.